Good afternoon, this is Rachel with Infused Meadows, and we are going to talk about food preservation. Today I have some carrots and some celery that, well, I don't want it to go off, and so I'm going to talk to you about the two ways that I personally know of that you can preserve it. Well, there's three. You could can it, but we're not getting into canning. So I'm going to show you another way. What you want to do is you're going to wash your carrots, and then you're going to skin them. I use this pretty much only for this kind of process. So you just run it across there. Make sure that you get all of that off. And then with this, if you have chickens, you can give this to your chickens. They'll absolutely love it. Any garden scraps can go to the chickens. So you just peel it all the way around. You can tell the difference from what you've peeled versus where you've missed. And then we're going to cut the end off, both ends. And there you go, a clean carrot. Okay? We'll be right back. So what do we want to do next? You're going to cut this in the way that you like. If you like to julienne, you julienne. If you like it in rings, do rings. If you prefer it grated, then you can grate it. It's however you like your carrots, especially if you're going to make soups. I use this all the time in my homemade soup. I actually like the texture of it. So, you're going to cut. You do not want yours to be too thick. And when you get to the end, watch your fingers. I do mine about like that. That's just what I prefer. So I'm going to get these all done up and into that bowl, and we'll be right back. Okay, I have a stock pot on the stove on medium high, and I'm going to bring that to a boil. That will be for the carrots, which we'll get into in a second. Let's talk celery. Okay, so to your celery, you want to wash it. I cut off this end and this end, and then make sure you wash it really good. If you see any really bad spots, you're gonna, excuse me, that was my hand on the bowl. You're going to cut the bad spots off. Now, what I generally do, I'm sorry that bowl's in the way. What I do is I like to take my knife and I'll go right down the center. I do not drag my knife across the cutting board. That will dull your knife extremely quickly. So just, be mindful of that. And then cut this in half, bring it together, and then just chop it. Remember, watch your fingers. Okay, once you have your celery chopped, you're going to put it into a bowl. Now I'm going to do all my celery. I have all this. I'm going to get this done into a bowl, and we'll be back. Okay, I have everything chopped up. That is my celery. And then you see the carrots. The water is boiling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put every bit of these, because I'm using a stock pot. I'm not doing this in, 3 or 4 different batches. That's time consuming. Anyway, so we're going to put this in our boiling water, and we're going to set a timer for 3 minutes. Once this comes up to a boil, because you're going to put these in, that's going to stop your boiling process. Once the water starts boiling again, you're going to start your timer for 3 minutes. This is called blanching. This is where you're partially cooking what you're putting in there. Celery does not have to be blanched. Well, carrots don't have to be. I do it when I cut them in the rounds. And if you're one of the preservation methods is to freeze. If you're going to freeze, I highly recommend you blanch. And what I'm doing with mine is dehydrating, which if you blanch them, they keep their color. If you don't blanch them, they get kind of dull looking, but they still taste the same. So anyway, we're going to put this in our pot, and then once it comes back up to a boil, I'm going to set my timer, and I'll bring you back. Once your carrots are in, put your lid on. Keep an eye on this. It's about to start boiling. So I'm going to wait for the boil. Once it starts boiling, like I said earlier, you're going to set your timer for 3 minutes. You can do this with all kinds of stuff. And as I'm already doing it at home, I'll do a video. But you can always look that up yourself. There is this amazing woman called Darcy over at Purposeful Pantry on YouTube. All she does is dehydrating, and she shows you how to preserve pretty much everything you can think of. So you can always go give her a look if you're curious. So I have 3 minutes on the clock. Well, 2:43 now. Once this is done, I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to take my spotter, and I'm going to take this from here to this very cold, ice cold water where I need it to stop cooking, and I'm going to let it set. I will keep adjusting the water if I have to. I'll, stick my hand in there. If the water feels like it's getting warm, I will pour the water out and then add cold water back to it. And then that way, you want to do that until your carrots feel cold. And at that point, we're going to put it on trays. Now, if you're not dehydrating, you want to put this, what I do is I put it on a cookie sheet, and on my cookie sheet, I'll lay down like some baking paper, and then I drain my carrots off completely from the water, and then I'll line them up on my cookie sheet, and then I put that in the deep freeze. That way they get nice and frozen, and then I'll put those into a vacuum seal bag, write what's in there, along with the date, and then you just keep those in the freezer until you're ready to use them. They're good for at least a year. Dehydrating, you usually have at least 2 years, maybe even a little longer. And that's a whole, it is different. You're splitting at, once they've come to temperature. You're either putting them in the freezer or you're dehydrating. So I will be dehydrating today. So what I will do is, like I said, these are going to time out. They'll go into this, get cold, and then I'll put those onto my trays. And when I do that, I'll show you what that looks like. And then we're going to put them in the dehydrator. Your dehydrator, depending on what you have, it will take as long as it takes. You want to set your temperature for 45 Celsius, or if your dehydrator does 5s, do 115. If it only does 10s, do 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you're just going to leave it. Just walk away. You want to check it. After 3 hours, I tend to rotate my trays. And then 3 hours more, which puts you in the 6-hour marker. Pull the trays out, let them cool down, and then fill of your carrots, celery, whatever you got in there. If they bend at all and they don't feel dry, then put them back in, let them keep going. But when they break and you don't see or feel any moisture and they don't feel spongy, they're good. And at that point, you're going to put those into a jar, and you're going to let them set for a week. With every day, you're going to tip that jar over, and you're going to make sure that you don't see anything sticking to the sides of the jar. If you see anything sticking together or to the sides of the jar, that means that you have moisture. And my timer is about to go off, so I apologize. That was probably in your ear if you're watching. So heat off. Lid is gone. And then we're going to put this. Ooh, I apologize for that. Goodness gracious. Apologies. That had to be loud on your end, so I'm so sorry about that. Alright, so we're fishing these out and we're putting these into our cold water where they will stop cooking. Now, if you have a slotted spoon, you don't have a spotter, use your slotted spoon. All you want to do is make sure you don't move the hot water over to your cold water. And you're going to get all that put into there. And then you just want to let this set. Obviously, this stays off the heat. Now, if you have a garden, all of the scraps that I've shown you from today, you can throw that into your garden. Work that into your soil. I will not pull that again. That water, once it cools off, add that to your garden. Vitamins and nutrients from anything that you're blanching is in this water. So it's really good for your garden. Okay, this is going to cool. And I apologize if anybody thinks I'm talking too much. I'm actually trying to help you understand what's happening. These are going to cool. I'm going to go grab my trays and I'll be back. Okay, I have a 6-tray dehydrator. There's my trays. And so, like I said, with the celery, we do not have to blanch it. So you just want to put that on your tray. I use the silicone mats. You don't have to. But if you don't, make sure you don't cut your celery so small that it falls through the little grates that are on some of these. Yeah, so you're just going to fill your tray. Celery is one of those, as far as I've found anyways, it doesn't matter if it's a little overwhelming, if you will. They can all touch, they still dry just fine. And you can use this, and like I use this for my bone broths, or if I need a little bit of celery flavor into a soup, then what I'll do is I take some of my dried celery and I powder it. I don't personally care for store-bought celery, the powder, sorry, because I think it has a weird taste that I don't particularly care for. This is different. So you're drying it yourself, you're not adding anything. If you do want like a celery salt, then you take your dried celery, you're going to grind that into a powder, add some salt as much as you like, and then just stir that up and keep it. There you go. You have your own homemade celery salt. So I'm going to take this tray, put it in, and do the next one, and I'll be back. Okay, carrots are done, drained as best I can. Now, what I do is I take a handful of carrots and then I line them. Now this may seem like a little bit more work than some people want to do, and that's fine. But I do this so that the airflow can go all the way around the carrots, because if they're on top of each other, you're going to find that they're not going to dry the same, and you may over dry some and under dry others. And then you end up with, well, a mess. So I do this, and this is the exact same thing that I do on my cookie sheet. And this way, when I pull them off and I put them into the vacuum seal bag, I usually weigh them, and I try to put mine in 8-ounce bags for the freezer when I do that. But this is, I'm dehydrating today. It's just what I felt like doing. And my container of dehydrated carrots is starting to run a little low. I use this for bone broth. I use this for soups, stews. You can use it for anything. All you got to do is, once your carrots are good and done, and I told you, you set them for a week, check the jar every day, just slowly rotate, tilt, give it a little shake. You'll hear it tink off the glass, and that's a good sign. When it doesn't tink, you've got moisture, and that means that you need to throw them back in the dehydrator and let them go, for as long as they take. If you want to use these for, like, let's say tonight for dinner, you just wanted to have some cooked carrots. You're going to take your carrots out of your jar, get as many as you want. So let's say you wanted a half a cup of cooked carrots. You're going to measure out 1/4 cup of your dehydrated carrots. And then you're going to put those into a bowl, add water, and let them soak. You are rehydrating them. After a couple of hours, you'll see that they are just like this right here. Some people say there's a slight chewy taste. I've not found that with carrots or broccoli, or anything that I personally have dehydrated. I think it's all really nice, but, everybody's different. So, you'll just do it and see what you think. Sorry, I'm drying my hands. So I'm going to get this tray into my dehydrator. Anyway, I apologize, I'm all over the place. After you rehydrate them, you just cook them however you want. Now, if you're doing soup, stew, or anything like that, and your stew or soup is cooking for more than 5 minutes, throw these in at the beginning. When you add your broth to the pan, go ahead and add these. And then that way, come time to eat, these are nice and done. But if your soup or stew is cooked in under 30 minutes, I would let them rehydrate for a couple of hours before I just threw those in there. Obviously, if you freeze them, you don't have to do any of that. You do just like you would with anything you grab at the store that's frozen. You just throw them in whenever you normally do. Okay, I'm going to get these into my dehydrator, get the rest of these done, and I'll be back. So here's my dehydrator. You do not have to separate your trays. I just did that for, I don't know why. Put the lid on it. Now, like I've told you all before, I'm not in Tennessee. I'm in the UK. So everything over here is Celsius. So 45 Celsius or 115 Fahrenheit. Unless your machine only does 10s, do 110 Fahrenheit. So I'm going to set my temperature temp. We are not going to 70. That's for beef jerky, deer jerky. So we got 45. Timer, I'm at 10. I'm going to go ahead and do 12, but I will be checking on this and start. There you go. So once you have reached the right consistency, you're going to put these into a jar. Okay? You're going to leave that jar setting for at least a week, and you want to just turn it. This is celery. So you'll know if you see any sticking to the glass, you have moisture. At that point, add a moisture absorber. As you can see, I do this with everything. I hate waste. This is marshmallows. You can dry your marshmallows, and then you just add them to whatever you want. I do peppers, chicken. That is chicken thigh, cheese, Parmesan. Anyway, I can, whenever I need any of that, I will do videos in case anybody's interested. But, so condition this, or however you want to put, you know, call it what you want to for 1 week. Check it. As long as it's good, add yourself a moisture absorber. I keep a jar. I'll need more soon. But you're going to put a moisture absorber in there, and then you just put it up. And it's good. You just pull out whatever you need. So if you need 1 cup, you get a half a cup. You need a half cup, get a 1/4 cup. And add that to whatever you're going to do. Or if you need to, add it to some water inside of your, you know, in a bowl, and then let that soak. You can put it in the refrigerator at night and pull it out the next morning, you know, in your water, or put it in the refrigerator that morning in your water, and then just pull it out that evening when you need it, and it'll be nice and rehydrated. I hope that this helps. I'm sorry that this is not short, but unfortunately there are some things that you just cannot explain in moments, seconds, you know. Some things you actually have to explain. So I hope that this helps you. I personally hate food waste, and if you're one of those people, then I think that this video will help. Have a wonderful day.